Good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother. Good morning to my good friend, the producer, and your co-host.
I hope you're in good health.
Well, God has given us life. We are grateful for His mercy, and so yeah, I suspect you are better yourself.
I am also well. First, let me take your impressions of what transpired in Parliament yesterday when the three entities appeared before Parliament on the new CI, the Electoral Commission, intends to lay in Parliament.
Well, as part of a democratic exercise of exacting accountability, it was a useful sight to behold. Really, I think the Parliament has done quite well in obviously hailing executive branch and its agents or allies on a crucial matter like this to Parliament. So that's kudos for them. But I think generally the questions that were asked were well answered. My only worry is that we shouldn't really even get here, right? I mean, if we thought that we have had quarrels with this whole idea of several types of identity, I think by now we should be discussing how we sync useful multiple identities, right? I mean, passports are still a valid part of our identity in this part of our world, and I think generally across the world as well. So I fail to understand why we seem to be in a mad rush to, as it were, use a single identity system to register for election. I mean, I can't fathom that, really. So if Ghana were such a sophisticated, overly sophisticated, I mean, in terms of IT or something country, maybe all these processes of trying to ferry people across or place a burden on people who have to travel miles and miles to just get an identity card for the purposes of exercising their legitimate right is quite frankly an ask, a huge ask of citizens whose economic wherewithal obviously would have been impaired. So I think fundamentally what is wrong with the picture we are painting, where we needed to power the identity managers, the electoral commission, and then the person who has to fund the new enterprise to come and sit and have a conversation over something that is as basic as just getting people with proper identities to be able to get on the voter roll. Why are we imposing this single obligation or obligatory identity request on everybody, right? I don't get it. We could have saved ourselves all this trouble, but in any case, I suspect that's what the minorities argument really is. I mean, if you want to rely on the administrative processes of the NIA to get the remaining cards for everyone, that in itself is also a huge act, apart from the glitch that had come as a result of the funding lapse. I was quite mortified to hear that the 3.5 million cards were locked away because we were owing. I mean, when this whole thing started, the numbers were said to be encouraging and that the cards will be distributed in record time. As we speak, I don't know whether this 100 million or so that have been dispersed, the NIA can categorically state that within 11 days they would have completed the exercise. Let's not give ourselves unnecessary, if you like, futile timelines, right? For something that is ordinarily a natural course of things to do. Registering or updating the register must be a matter of natural course because, again, people attain. I mean, the cards from age 15, you're supposed to acquire the cards, right?
Yes.
Yes. So if the exercise was solely for the purposes of getting people onto the register, then maybe the rush may be justified, and then we would rather say that let's rather have those who have attained 18 or will be attaining 18 by the time of the vote, just to get their cards for them and get it done. But to have a huge enterprise like this, with the type of infrastructure we have to deliver this card, first of all, register people, deliver the card, and then later verify the process again, it's quite frankly a daunting act. We could have, we could still do with a few multiple identities, especially the passport, and unfortunately the birth certs have been taken off anyway. So, look, what happened in Parliament was nice, but I'm saying that we could have avoided this waste of this precious time with discussing something as fundamental as getting people onto their voter roll. And by the way, there's no way we can get a foolproof register. Let's not kid ourselves. It just doesn't. It just won't happen, right? It just won't happen. But at least to the extent that you reduce the error to the barest minimum, that's fine. That's fine.
You said we can't get a foolproof register, but to the extent that we reduce the errors to the barest minimum, the EC believes the NIA card will help it do that. Do you get that impression?
I don't think I get that full impression, because clearly, I mean, when people decide that, I really don't get that full impression. The fact that someone has a card does not necessarily mean that the person may have satisfied all the conditions to be able to vote in an election. I really don't get that. Because it's most possible if the NIA were to tell us that they also have some errors and margins of error, I'm sure they have all this computed, right? It may reduce to the barest minimum, but I don't think entirely it will be 100% fruitful. I am only saying that we should not have placed this burden upon ourselves. To what end, really? I mean, if anybody, it's not as if it's easier to get a passport, right? It's not as if it's easier to get a passport these days anyway. So I don't get the point in just limiting it to. But the process would have been much faster and administratively fairly less costly if we allow the natural process. With the EC one, by the way, that is not going to conduct a new register, but just that people should ordinarily, once they get their cards, and I dare add maybe their passports, and even the guarantor system, right? Look, who said the guarantor system that they claim it's not? I mean, their guarantor system is not as better as that of the what's it called? The NIA. Couldn't be done because not all. You see, one other point we should also be mindful of is that not everyone. I mean, is actually the point I'm trying to make is just escaped me, but it is not everyone that has that sophistication to just go ahead and go through the process and say I'm getting a Ghana card, right? There are people who still need support. And I think we should widen that aspect as well. Well, I hear that the last election, about 10 million people had voted with ID card, but 3.5 million or so used other forms of identity. You could encourage people to say that, look, you could go ahead and get the ID card, but I still think that, I'm open to this other process of verifying or vouching. But anyway, at the end of the day, the political parties who would have to agree or disagree anyway. But as a layperson looking at the value of sensible policies, I would have thought that the best thing to do was to argue for a syncing of all these useful multiple identities that we have to encourage natural process of registering people without burdening them from having to travel several miles to go to a district office to get a card. It's just too much. The burden is just too
much. And if you listen to the Electoral Commission very carefully, it looks like at this point they are convinced that this is the way to go. And subsequently,
sorry, yes, let me make this one before I forget. I'm sorry to affect you. And that's one of the things that, quite frankly, was a bit unnerving for me. I don't know why the EC is so invested in that we believe that obviously the NI card obviously is a fee. No, I mean we could do that. I mean we could believe that, but we are saying that because the cards are not fully ready, let's allow other processes because we know they assume that there's still time to cover before the next election. But the first elections that these cards would ultimately be used for are the district level elections, right, which is around the corner. And so it's a bit worrying. I can understand they may have conversations and they believe in the NI system. I certainly do, but I think administratively and for fairness purpose, we should not should I say hurry the process in such a way that significant amount of people would have been shortchanged before the day of the election.
And I used to recall the extent to which, and I've always referred to Dr. Cudjoe Afarijan because he was the kind of discussions he had with the political parties and yourself as civil society was always in the public domain. One of the things he used to insist on is the right of the voter to vote. That if you make a proposal that he feels that would disenfranchise one voter, he usually will fight against. He fought against the famous no verification, no vote in 2012 because he felt that some voters will not have the opportunity to vote. Do you see a sense in which this whole CI is being pushed to in the interest of the voter?
Again, that's the point I was making earlier. What is the point in imposing undue burden on someone who just wants to exercise the right to vote? What's this? Really? I mean, the fact is that it's not as if this. Let me not even make that point. Question is, why are we imposing this onerous task on the ordinary voter? If it is some card you need to get, like a SIM card, you need to use this particular ID card. I mean, why? It's just too much burden, and it goes to the question. It goes to the heart of disenfranchising the ordinary voter as well. I can understand if you want to manage identity. There are obviously several ways of doing them, but let's not abdicate administrative, inefficiencies. What's it called? Attribute that to the cause of the voter, whose right must be upheld at all times. So, to the extent that it imposes this onerous tax on the voter, who must exercise his or her right, I agree entirely that no voter, legitimate voter, should be turned away because of a process, administrative process that has been imposed on. You see, whether process is even that efficient, right? As in the money was there. If it had not been the media and a few others for the position that raised this matter, would have still been in limbo. Would have been sitting around and then waiting for cards and the NI itself. I don't think they came out until the political party started questioning until the EC suggested this EI, right? I don't think the NI has been speaking until the EC proposed this CI rather, to what's it called, to get the NI card as the sole purpose for registering to vote.
And you call it a mad rush. And if you listen to the total indebtedness of the EC is put at $117 million. In fact, of the NIA. In fact, the NIA boss yesterday indicated that even after paying the 10 million, they will not get all the 3.5 million cards that they have currently available. They will get some, which they will then print. Then there is the deputy chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who says this: I don't know if you know of any country where, let's say in Togo, in Burkina Faso, in Britain, where two British nationals must vouch for somebody. It does not happen. This has been unique to Ghana, and we think that we began this in 1992. We have come very far, and we have made progress. So he says he feels the vouching system is old. Nobody does that. That we are still doing something that is outdated, that is time to move on. Do you agree?
I disagree. You know that the issue really has to do with the sophistication across every part of this. I mean, to the extent that the NIA itself allows people to vouch for others and swear proofs and all of that. It tells you that we don't have a proof yet. I mean, what are the things you need to use to get the NIA card itself, right? What do you need? Don't you need a passport? I've forgotten the other document, but you need a passport as a show of proof to be able to get the NIA document. If it is the case that yes, others, and then of course the guarantor system that also works for the NIA. If these two were allowed in order to get an NIA card, what makes it so difficult for the EC to accept the fact that the guarantor system itself also works and must be at least be on side by side with the passport as well? You know, this whole notion that anybody who got onto the NIA card is a legitimate citizen is quite frankly ludicrous. I mean, if the argument is that the various modes of acquiring the document that they need to use in order to get the NIA card were fraught with problems, then necessarily those who have the NIA card may not all be fully proved that, should I say, legal Ghanaian, right? I mean, unless of course when you are getting the NIA card, they ask you questions in your mother tongue, or they ask you questions in such a way that they're able to determine your accent and say that you are a Guinean, you are a Malian, you are a Ghanaian, or you are an Ivorian. I mean, these are all questions that ought to be, I'm sure, questions that ought to be entertained at the point of registering if someone was absolutely guaranteed for you, or even when you have a passport. So the mere fact that people may have ID cards does not mean that the documents they obviously use in getting them may be foolproof anyway. The point I'm making is that you can't eliminate this whole idea of fraud or fraud from a voter roll. It just doesn't happen. I mean, and so I think the point to make really is that we shouldn't be in a mad rush, and that the process should be. In fact, if you really wanted to ensure that foolproof, then you may have to be meticulous. You have to be meticulous yourself. Take the time you need in this world, and ensure that you do excessive background checks before you even accept anyone who is being guaranteed for, or even anyone with a passport onto the NIA card.
You understand our voting process quite well because of your participation for years. I'm wondering then what happens to the independence of the Electoral Commission, because it is constantly said that it should be guarded jealously. This process should be guarded jealously against influence and also reliance on other people, which might, in essence, water down what they are doing. What happens to their independence if they are ceding that voter registration responsibility to the NIA under the circumstances? Because all you need is an NIA card. Without an NIA card, you don't qualify, which is not what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to be the ones doing the compilation, ensuring that every voter has the opportunity.
In actual fact, the question you just asked, if you flip it really, then that means that we should shut down the EC and allow the NIA to organize the election. Simple, right? That would have been simple. Of course, that's exactly what is being communicated. That even though I'm an EC and I'm supposed to supervise elections and I'm responsible to ensure that every legitimate voter votes, I'm now relying on another party to provide the identity and all of that. Of course, if that identity is the reason why I have to set up a voter management system, then let's just shut the EC down and allow the NIA card. Everybody just gets to the point of voting, and the NIA system just decides to put the card in, they verify, you vote, and then you go. So no EC, we don't spend money, shut the EC offices everywhere, shut it down now, and let's get on with the work. You see the answer I'm providing to your question? I'm sure you get the drift.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you ask a very intelligent question, which is if the EC, which is mandated to supervise elections and ensure that every rightful voter is allowed to vote, is now saying that, oh, my processes of ensuring it is not proof, but someone else can do it for me. Then, in order not to waste money, let's stop the EC from organizing elections. Let's just, on election day, have normal polling stations, have observers that the government, whatever, I mean, even the NIA can do that. They then can become proper agents all over the place, mounting their machines. You just go, you verify the machine, so that we don't have to pay the EC to organize elections. But in this prudent economic times that is required, I suspect that would be a legitimate call, really.
And let me conclude then by reading to you, because whilst you called it, and this, you've left this word on my mind, mad rush. There's the question of, will the EC back down? And the deputy chairperson again, Dr. Bosman Seri, says, unless there's a force majeure, and continue. So far, there is no evidence to suggest that we are not going to continue with what we are doing. But to say we are backing down, unless there is what the lawyers call force majeure, he continues, assuming the NIA stops its operation, then it means we cannot continue to rely on it. Our government has decided that the NIA is no longer necessary. But as long as the NIA is functioning and they are issuing the cards and they have opened their doors that people should come and register, we must just encourage. What do you say?
Well, that's a fine, delicate balance he's put out there, essentially saying that, well, at this stage, we are not backing down because we think the NIA system is still the best. So everyone should be encouraged to get their card. But at the same time, unless something drastic happens and the NIA is not able to get the card in time, then they may adopt their own process. You see, that's why the wisdom of the minority, some of the questions people were asking, then why don't you wait for the NIA to get cards for every eligible voter before you come here with this CI? Finito. So get it done. Let's get on with it. Because if the idea is that every eligible voter must have a national ID card, then before the CI would have to come into fruition, you must have satisfied that condition yet. I can understand why the EC will say, well, we can't do that because people may attain the age of voting, the voter age, maybe a day or two to the election. So we should allow the process to be that seamless. Either way, I still feel that this whole conversation about shifting everything to the NIA then presupposes that we probably do not need a voting, electoral commission to organize elections. And because at the end of the day, the only way to determine, because even the card itself has an age, it has an age limiter embedded in it, right? Because the EC can argue that, oh, but we only register voters who are 18 and above, so allow us to conduct the election. I can say, no, the voter ID card, sorry, the NIA card is the only card that should be used. So we don't need you, but the card can actually verify persons who are 18 and above. You get the point. So if you are cutting costs, maybe that's what we should actually do.
Get rid of the Electoral Commission itself.
Well, Novinia, look, question, you asked me an intelligent question. That's why I've given you an answer. Of course, it's part of the movement. Just to say that if you suggest that the EC is saying, now look at me. Right now, I can't do anything until the NIA, if I'm relying on the NIA card, because the card is the supreme identifier of every eligible voter. Then I said, fine, let's agree. We agree. Then we don't need you, because you only just put people on the voter roll based on the card from age 18, right? And the way you determine that again will be, what's it called? On the day of the vote, people will come and do biometrics to determine whether they are the same persons who got onto the roll. I'm saying Why don't you cast all of that out and just allow the NIA to be the one organizing the elections with their machines all over the place? So that on the day of vote, you come with your card. If you are not 18, we don't even care. Don't whether you are 16, 17, you come. But because it's foolproof, right? As soon as you show your card, they verify it. They say you are less than 18. Get out of the line. You not even vote. And that same process, you biometrically verify. In fact, you don't even have to do any biometrics again because the card itself has already embedded your biometrics. You get the point. So it becomes easy. And I think this is a fine argument that we should make. So we don't need a voting and electoral management body. Not at all. We cut costs. We use NIA staff all over the place. And even the NIA needs additional staff. But the NIA probably may have more staff than the EC. And then just use their staff to man the election. Yeah, I guess that would be a good way of saving.